Hello and welcome to Wisconsin in Focus, powered by the Center Square. I'm J.D. Davidson, the Center Square Midwest Regional Editor. Joining me today is Ben Yount, Wisconsin contributor for the Center Square. Ben, how are things today?
It is almost the end of February. I don't know how we are now almost 2 months into 2024. This year is just absolutely flying by. But I chalk it up to the fact that we've had very, very good weather here in Wisconsin. We have not had a bone-chilling, depressing winter.
That's always a plus. Yeah, and I feel like it's almost time to start making Christmas lists again. It has flown by. We are recording this on Thursday, February 22nd, 2024. And Ben, it's election season, and there seems to be a serious challenger to Wisconsin Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin. And Eric Hovde is already being scrutinized for business dealings out of state. What's going on with the race for U.S. Senate?
Yeah, we knew this was coming. Hovde ran back in 2012, and he's an entrepreneur. He's a businessman. He owns community banks. That's his business. And to his credit, he doesn't just buy them and then sort of pick off the pieces from the carcass and leave the bones to rot in the prairie. He tries to help them. And most of his clients, he said during the interview on the radio on Wednesday, said most of his clients are small and medium-sized businesses because he's focused on growing small and medium-sized businesses here across the country. His banks, however, are in California. And you heard as he was considering to get in, because he was considering to get in for the past 6, 8, 10 months. And so Wisconsin Democrats had this attack that it's California Hovde, that he was going to be jumped the moment that he entered the race. And he was. He entered the race on Tuesday, announcing on Twitter, Facebook, all manners of different social media. And the response was absolutely predictable. This is the first major challenge. There's a woman from the Trempealeau County Board by the name of Stacy Klein. She is every bit as conservative as you would think somebody from Western Wisconsin would be, but she does not have the one thing that Eric Hovde has, and that's millions of dollars. And so while she is a challenger and while they may have a primary, she's not considered a serious challenger because this is going to be a $100 million race, and Hovde can at least pay some of that. But as far as the criticism, Hovde told Jay Weber, the host who interviewed him, he was expecting to be criticized by the state Democrats. He was expected to have to defend his California ties. But he did point out that Tammy Baldwin, who is the incumbent Democrat, as well as many other Democrats here in Wisconsin, if you look at who gives them money, an awful lot of their campaign cash comes from California. I made the point the other day that the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, Janet Protasewicz, saw members of the cast of The West Wing get together to do a script read to raise money to help get her elected. And so that's the interesting juxtaposition here. That's the interesting, okay. So Hovde, who, by the way, says he lives in Wisconsin 9 months out of the year and has one single house in California. If Hovde is California Eric because he spends nights in California, is Tammy Baldwin California Tammy because she gets twice as much money from California donors as she does donors here in the state of Wisconsin.
How, assuming he wins the primary, how big of a challenge is he for Baldwin?
I'm still going to say this is 60-40 against. That Tammy Baldwin is seeking her third term. She doesn't do enough to anger anyone. She doesn't really do enough to stand out and be a sort of front-facing, grab the flag, lead the charge kind of senator either. But I crack the joke often that Tammy Baldwin's signature legislative initiative is the Go Pack Go Act. And in Wisconsin, some parts of far northwestern Wisconsin, and some people up by the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, because of the way that television stations work, they're forced to either watch the Vikings games out of Minneapolis or they're forced to watch the Lions games out of Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Tammy wants to pass legislation that would say, no, these people in Wisconsin get to watch the Packers, no matter where they are. Everyone in the state of Wisconsin has the right to watch the Packers. And that's very much in line with Tammy Baldwin's career, that She doesn't do anything outrageously controversial. She doesn't do anything that brings too much extra attention. She's just sort of there. And in a state that is probably 55-45 when you come to statewide Democrats versus Republicans, she flies just under the radar enough that she wins. Now, is November of 24, is that going to be a red wave election? Depending on how well Donald Trump does at the top of the ticket here in Wisconsin, depending on a lot of other things, Eric Hovde could squeak by. Ron Johnson squoke by the former lieutenant governor in November of 2022. So he is a serious challenger. He will be able to talk about freedom and the southern border and the effect that Joe Biden's presidency has had on the economy and on everyday American families. But when it comes down to it, there's not a lot of reasons why Democrats in Wisconsin would not vote for Tammy Baldwin. And, Republicans have this knack here in Wisconsin of sometimes picking at their own candidates. And, there are lots of people who, some of them on the Republican side, aren't happy that Hovde is the guy. And so, we'll just have to see. But he is a serious challenger. I think it's going to be tough to unseat her. She is an incumbent. And she hasn't really done much to get herself unelected.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to all come down to Donald Trump, and like it does most of the time, turnout. How mobile is Trump going to be in Wisconsin?
It's the interesting question is how many people are going to vote for Biden that voted for him 4 years ago. Again, and this is not to get too far into the political crystal ball, but there's some anger among younger Democrats that Joe Biden hasn't done enough. There is this interesting split when it comes to support for the war against Hamas. You have an awful lot of Arab Americans who say they're simply just not going to vote for Joe. They will punish him. That's a very popular view on college campuses as well. Elections in Wisconsin are decided in the WOW counties, Waukesha, Ozaukee, and Washington, and they're decided by moderate women. And the question that we talk about constantly on the radio is how many of these WOW County women are not going to be turned off by Trump's bullying, but turned off by the fact that Joe Biden has made it tougher for the adult kids of these middle and upper middle class suburban families to buy homes, to buy cars. I'm 50 years old. I've got 4 kids. One of them graduated from high school, still living in the basement because the economics don't work out for them to just go to college or just go get an apartment with your idiot buddies and work your job and figure it out for the next year. There are an awful lot of people who will decide the election in 2024 who may have buyer's regret, and they don't have to vote for Donald Trump. We just don't have to not vote for Joe Biden. If they abandon Biden, he won by 21,000 votes here in Wisconsin. That is not an unsurmountable swing in a year like this.
That's a very good point. But that's all the time we have. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. For Ben Youn, I'm JD Davidson. Thanks for listening, and please subscribe.
Are you tired of news that puts politics over people? At the nonprofit Franklin News Foundation, we believe in putting people over politics by delivering nonpartisan news and audio content that serves you, the American taxpayer. With Franklin News Foundation, you can read fact-based, state-focused news for free at thecentersquare.com. You can listen to civil, balanced conversations between policy experts through our podcast network at americastalking.com. Or you can get in-depth news on K-12 education spending, curriculum, and school safety at chalkboardnews.com. It's all free through Franklin, where we put you, the American taxpayer, first in every story, episode, and conversation. And it's only possible through our supporters. Together, we can produce content that puts people over politics and brings Americans the news they deserve. Become a supporter today at franklinnews.org/donate. Once again, that's franklinnews.org/donate.